Welcome. I'm Tracy Smith, and this is Here Comes the Sun, a closer look at some of the people, places, and things we bring you every weekend on Sunday morning. Harrison Ford may play larger-than-life characters like Han Solo in Indiana Jones, but he says any role he takes on is rooted first in humanity.
Well, I think I've gravitated towards those roles in which I play an ordinary person in extraordinary circumstances.
Put that gun down!
Who finds themselves perhaps behaving in a way they hadn't anticipated. And I think that's part of the romance of movies.
Later in the show, Ford on deciding to earn a private pilot's license in his 50s.
What drew you to airplanes?
Well, more or less. I'd been interested in flying when I was in college, but it was something like $11 an hour for an airplane and an instructor at the local airport. And I was working at Mrs. V's clothing store for about $3.50 an hour, and I just couldn't afford it. So years and years later, I was flying around in Warner Brothers airplanes when they were being so generous to all of us that worked for them. And I thought, this is nice.
Then the children of another showbiz legend, Carl Reiner, pay tribute at the National Comedy Center.
You got a guy from the Bronx who seems to be heading off for a career repairing sewing machines. And he ends up with part of a museum named after him. A museum. Would that have given him pleasure?
Oh, he would have loved it.
Yeah, he would have loved that, because no way would he ever have expected that to happen.
Yeah.
That's all coming up right here on Here Comes the Sun. A life in Los Angeles just isn't for blockbuster actor Harrison Ford. He prefers being far from the noise on his Wyoming ranch, where Ben Mankiewicz caught up with him.
Come here, Coop.
Walking with Harrison Ford and his horse Cooper, you'd think he's been riding all his life.
Somebody sent me up to a casting guy at Columbia Pictures. First question he asked me is, could you ride a horse? I said, sure, yes, sir. He said, can you speak Spanish? I said, yes, sir.
And could you do either?
No, I certainly couldn't ride a horse, and I certainly couldn't speak Spanish.
I love actors.
But I could lie. And that was the main talent of an actor.
Riding came when he left Hollywood and moved here 40 years ago to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I think I know the answer, but why'd you want to get out of LA?
Because it's LA, and it's a city, and I don't have to be there for work, so might as well enjoy a different kind of life. You attack my family, it's going to be the last thing you ever do.
4 decades later, Art is once again imitating life.
Jacob, you can't start a range war.
Range war's already started.
This big-time movie actor is starring in a TV series, and it's being made in Wyoming's neighbor to the north, Montana.
Tell the world what happens when they cross me.
The role comes from the creator of the hit show Yellowstone, Taylor Sheridan, for his prequel series 1923, which is now streaming on our sister service, Paramount Plus. Sheridan wrote the lead character specifically for Harrison Ford.
I was knocked out when I got the scripts. The ambition and the bold storytelling, it's audacious.
Ready, and action.
1923 is a complicated show. 1 part moving, 2 parts brutal. It's the story of the American West in the aftermath of World War I. Ford plays Jacob Dutton, a rancher and distant relative to Kevin Costner's character in Yellowstone. Jacob's wife,
men kill quick,
is another movie star, Helen Mirren.
But their fight is with me, and I kill much slower.
Helen was a big part of the lure of it all for me.
If you try to jump from that horse and run, you're going to break something.
Because as much as we're telling the story of the condition of the West at that particular time, there's also a very important central relationship here between husband and wife. The marriage that we're portraying is one of deep, deep, complex partnership between these two people.
The series is being produced old school, on location, no CGI, and no relief from the elements.
That wind blowing up our skirts is a real wind. We were standing out there doing a scene, and the wind was howling. With the wind chill factor, it was 21 below zero. It was real.
Ford has long valued being real.
Paging Mr. Ellis.
There's even a hint of it in a story from his 1966 movie debut called Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round.
Robert Ellis, room 72.
No, sir. Charles Ellis. Room 607.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
The day after that scene, the producer called Ford into his office.
He said, saw the dailies from yesterday. You're never going to make it in this business. You're wasting your time.
Then the producer told Ford that years earlier, a young Tony Curtis had played a grocery delivery boy and did it with such presence that everyone said, "Now that's a movie star."
And I leaned across the desk and I said, "I thought you were supposed to think that there was a grocery delivery boy." He said, "Get the out of here."
You were charming people right from the start, Harrison.
Yep. Both strap yourselves in. I'm going to make the jump to light speed.
Even when he's playing make-believe in a galaxy far, far away, or outrunning boulders in the Peruvian jungle, or hunting replicants in futuristic Los Angeles, there's something grounded in Ford's characters.
There's a genuine quality to the characters you play, which is clearly, at this point, not an accident.
Well, I think I've gravitated towards those roles in which I play an ordinary person in extraordinary circumstances.
Put that gun down!
Who finds themselves perhaps behaving in a way they hadn't anticipated. And I think that's part of the romance of movies, is that you can find your place on screen. You can find a character that feels like you. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an emotional connection to the audience. I don't want to put bull in the way.
Yeah.
Oh, Cooper.
Ford has been as busy as possible.
He knows these boots are
Work has kept him away from his home and his family.
I got two projects that were so well written. One, a comedy.
My home is my fortress of solitude.
Fortress of Solitude should be the name of your memoir.
Doing for Apple, half-hour comedy, which I never got to do.
I'm never going to tell you the name of my memoir.
Very spicy today.
Well, he's mad because I said memoir, and clearly it's
memoir.
That would make a lot of people mad.
Yeah. This is my peepaw, and this is my memoir.
And then this, 1923.
in and amongst the two shows, you're making the fifth.
Well, I made the fifth Indiana Jones movie. Now I've got to go support its release.
Movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark and all its sequels made Ford rich and famous. But when he was a young actor in college, he didn't dream of fame. He just wanted to work.
So I imagined what the life of an actor was. You work for a discrete period of time with a group of people you've never met before, and you make something, and you work your way through that, and then you put different lives. I have lived many different lives.
Not all those lives suit him. He has long struggled with the famous part. It's a big reason why he left L.A. for Wyoming.
You said some really interesting things about, there's nothing good about being famous. You always think if I'm successful, then I'll have opportunities. You never figure the cost of fame will be a total loss of privacy. It's incalculable.
Better word would be, instead of privacy, would be anonymity.
Yeah.
Anonymity. To walk through, the world without the world watching you. I mean, it caught me by surprise and really threw me for a while. I was really uncomfortable because people would So, well, there's that guy.
Right. It's not the coming up to you and asking you for an autograph.
Oh, no.
It's the watch. It's knowing that you're eating, walking.
It's knowing, yeah. The natural instinct of an actor is to be interested in human behavior. So you're a people watcher. Why are they looking at me, for Christ's sake? Why are the people watching me? Are they going to feed me now? Am I in a zoo?
None of that is disrespect for the fans or anything. It's just a discomfort.
No, I'm so grateful for the life they've given me, the opportunities they've given me, and I work for them. I really feel that way. They support my my Jones, my habit.
And what is that habit?
Telling stories. Telling stories.
If acting is Harrison Ford's habit, it is not one he's looking to break. He's signed on to join the Marvel Universe in a new Captain America movie.
Doesn't sound like you're a guy thinking about calling it quits.
No, but I'm not going to repeat what's gone on the last year.
You might slow down, take a few months off, but you like this job.
Yeah. I like my job.
Stick around for exclusive excerpts from their conversation that you can only see right here on CBS News Streaming. And up next, the life and craft of comedian Carl Reiner. Carl Reiner enjoyed a long, storied career in the funny business, winning awards and accolades along the way. But as his children told Jim Axelrod, perhaps his greatest achievement was a lifelong friendship with fellow comedian Mel Brooks.
At first glance, it looks like just another group of tourists drawn to the National Comedy Center in Jamestown, New York, to see artifacts like Lucy's polka-dotted frock.
I don't have a lot of clothes.
Jerry Seinfeld's ruffled shirt.
Is that what you're wearing? The monologue is going to bring tears to your eyes.
The curtains from The Tonight Show.
3, 2, 1, cut!
But this is no ordinary group of tourists. It's the family of comedy legend Carl Reiner, here to open the archive named in his honor.
When I say the Carl Reiner Department of Archives and Preservation, what washes over you all?
That he had a life that needed to be archived and preserved.
You got a cigar? Cigar? No. Give me $1. It's a joke. It's a joke.
His 3 children, the well-known actor and director Rob Reiner, Annie, a psychoanalyst, and Lucas, an artist, have donated 75 boxes of their dad's scripts, screenplays, and photographs to the center.
You got a guy from the Bronx who seems to be heading off for a career repairing sewing machines. And he ends up with part of a museum named after him. A museum. Would that have given him pleasure?
Oh, he would have loved it.
Yeah, he would have loved that, because no way would he ever have expected that to happen.
Yeah. Carl's impact on film was everything from noir to silly.
The museum's director, Journey Gunderson, is thrilled to have every one of the 18,000 pages of Reiner's work.
One of the things that we can showcase is process. You see multiple drafts of every script. You see handwritten notes in the margins. You see the painstaking effort that went into the fine-tuning of the laugh.
Didn't anyone ever teach you how to make a GI knot? It's supposed to be tight!
His career spans 7 decades, creating American comedy's royal lineage.
That was the last straw! You asked for it, buddy!
A second banana to Sid Caesar on Your Show of Shows. The straight man to Mel Brooks's 2,000-year-old man.
In other words, you're afraid to fly in an airplane.
On the nosy. Yeah, I see, but why?
Because if the good Lord meant man to fly, he would have given him tickets, right?
He'd paint him into a corner, and then Mel had to come up with something brilliant to get out of it. He loved doing that. He loved getting those things out of people.
The Dick Van Dyke Show, starring Dick Van Dyke.
Creator of The Dick Van Dyke Show. About a young sitcom writer, but loosely based on Reiner's own life.
Huh? Would you like these? What do you suggest I do with all of these now, huh?
Well, there must be some needy bald people.
I think of him sitting at his desk the first 5 years of my life writing the Dick Van Dyke Show. That was his favorite.
You know, you saw that spirit there.
Yeah.
And
Great.
that humor.
Father to one of the stars of perhaps the greatest sitcom ever.
So, you're Mr. Bunker.
You figured that out, huh?
Husband to the woman who delivered one of film's all-time great one-liners.
I'll have what she's having.
And mentor to the likes of Steve Martin, Lily Tomlin, and Bette Midler.
Listen, he got 12 Emmys, he got the Mark Twain Prize, but he never thought about those things. The greatest gift was his ability to give to other people and give his humor and make people feel good.
Can you see the chairs?
In one corner of a room at the National Comedy Center, you'll find the soul of the archive. 2 chairs from Carl Reiner's den.
That got me more than anything.
Where he and Mel Brooks, now 96, would eat dinner and watch TV every night. After Brooks's wife, Anne Bancroft, and Reiner's wife, Estelle, had both died.
They talked a lot about old music and old actors and old movies.
They took a lot of naps because they were old.
The men who'd formed one of comedy's great partnerships had an even more meaningful connection: their friendship.
And after he passed away, for the longest time, Mel would go...
1 year.
A whole year. He would go over to the house and sit there, have dinner, and watch television when my dad wasn't there for a whole year.
Carl Reiner died in June of 2020, when everyone was distracted by the pandemic. Perhaps his life and legacy weren't celebrated the way they deserved to be. But now, how Carl Reiner shaped our culture is on brilliant display at this museum. His humility.
I'm standing here because Sid Caesar and Mel Brooks and Mary Tyler Moore and Dick Van Dyke and Steve Martin were in my life. That's the truth. And that's all I got to say.
His humanity. His humor. And a command of how to live life that was also museum quality.
People have always asked me his influence. Did he give you advice? The advice I got from him was just watching him, how he conducted his career, how he conducted his life. And I said, that was the greatest lesson I could get. It was how he lived his life was the greatest advice I could get.
Anyway, I got thrown out of college, and I had been a philosophy and English major, and my grade point average was dreadful, terrible, just eking by.
More with Harrison Ford after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Here's more from Ben Mankiewicz's conversation with Harrison Ford.
When did you take up acting?
When they threw me out of college.
So you were
4 days before graduation.
So you're in your 20s?
Yeah.
Wait, why'd they throw you out of college? Who gets thrown out of college 4 days before they graduate?
Me.
What'd you do?
They had a name for it. They called it plagiarism.
Oh, okay, sure.
It had something to do with my senior paper written in the space of 4 days, which meant to have taken the whole month. And I might have been slipped some things in there that...
Copying, yeah.
You know, you get busy and you forget. And they were right. My piece was on Edward Albee. There was some smart stuff in there. Not all of it was mine, but it was. Anyway, I got thrown out of college, and I had been a philosophy and English major, and my grade point average was dreadful, terrible, just eking by. In my beginning of my junior year, I was desperate to get my grade point average up, and I read through the course schedule book, all the courses being offered, and I read ABCD, D drama, and it started out by saying you read and discuss plays, and then it went on. Again, I didn't read the whole description, which at the end it said that you had to be in plays. And I'd never done anything like that. And so I was shocked when, like the second week, they started auditioning for parts in a play we were going to do. And within a matter of weeks, I was Mr. Antrobus on stage with a pillow in my shirt and talcum powder in my hair and a fake mustache. And my knees were shaking. I was surprised at myself. I didn't know that I had that in me.
What drew you to airplanes?
Well, more or less. I'd been interested in flying when I was in college, but it was something like $11 an hour for an airplane and an instructor at the local airport. And I was working at Mrs. Veith's clothing store for about $3.50 an hour. And I just couldn't afford it. So years and years later, I was flying around in Warner Brothers airplanes when they were being so generous to all of us that worked for them. And I thought, this is nice.
So you start that at 52, and then you were on TV early in your career. You had guest roles, some uncredited, some credited. You're on some good early shows. But, everything comes late. At 80, you're a TV star.
Yeah.
You do everything late.
Yeah. I'm hoping to die late, too.
Yeah, well, that'd be okay with all of us.
I'm Tracy Smith. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you here next time on Here Comes the Sun.